There we go.
There we
I
go.
had you
Got you.
muted, so I didn't say anything. I had myself muted, so I didn't say anything beforehand.
Great.
How are
Awesome.
y'all?
We're doing great. I read your article published on the SuperTalk website. You just published it earlier this month. And it's a fascinating story. And the first thing I will share with you, it's not a whole lot different than my personal story, honestly.
Really?
I graduated, moved out of state, was looking to set the world on fire, doing that, traveled around, and realized that my heart was really at my home in Mississippi, and came
Yeah.
back and started a company, and do not regret that whatsoever. But you're at that age, you did the same, explored, and you also interact with lots of folks your age that I hope you're hearing and seeing the same from. So it was well
Yeah.
written. So share your story.
Sure. Yeah, the inspiration for this, I was asked to contribute to the Next Up column. That's a partnership between SuperTalk Mississippi and Coast Run Professionals, as well as the Mississippi Gulf Coast Chamber of Commerce. And my first instinct was to write about my personal journey of coming back to the coast and why I chose to do so. And like you just said, there's so many young people in this state who are choosing the same route and surprisingly are coming back and using their entrepreneurial spirit to make the area better in my area directly, but also the state as a whole. And it's
Hmm.
just great to see.
Yeah, that's awesome. So you grew up, I got from the article that you grew up in St. Martin, right? Which is around
That's
Ocean
right.
Springs, D'Iberville. And tell us about your academic, your major, and your work there.
Sure. Yeah, of course. So at St. Martin, I graduated in 2010. But while I was in high school, I attended Mississippi Governor School, and it is still a program that is funded by the state in some capacities. And now I think it's 2 weeks versus 3 weeks. But while I was at that leadership experience during the summer of my junior year, I felt like it was a catalyst to my personal growth, my leadership growth, and it gave me that fire to make Mississippi better. It really lit it within me. And so I graduated and then I attended LSU, and my undergraduate was in mass communication with a concentration in public relations and history. And after that, I decided to move to Chicago. I had an internship opportunity through an award that I received through the Public Relations Student Society of America, and it allowed me any office in the U.S. except for their really small offices at Edelman Public Relations. And I chose Chicago. It just seemed like, totally different from what I was used to with our tiny town of St. Martin and then, South Louisiana. And
Mhm.
it was a big culture shock in a way, but it taught me a lot about myself and how much I loved the area that I was from.
Hmm. So were you working in downtown Chicago specifically, or were you in one of the
I was
suburbs?
So I was in the Loop.
Downtown?
I was in the Aon
Yeah.
building. Yes, so
Yeah.
it's
Yeah.
directly across from Maggie Daly Park, and there's so much to see in that area. So I felt grateful that I had such a great, it was just real estate, perfect real estate, to really experience Chicago and all that the downtown affords. And our office was right across the street from Grant Park, which is where
Yep.
Lollapalooza is, and it's just a lot. It's very lively in that area of the city.
Yeah, no doubt. So, what were some of the things you heard from the natives there in Chicago? Many of whom I'm guessing had never met someone from Mississippi.
Right, and that was absolutely the first, response that I would get from most of the people that I would meet. First of all, I don't really have much of an accent. You can't tell where I'm from
Yeah.
unless I say y'all or, something else comes out. But for the most part, I had people couldn't identify where I was specifically. And so you're right. Most people had never met someone that was a native Mississippian and had chosen a large city like that. And it was fun for me. I got to change perceptions and I was able to help tell our story in a way and really change the narrative of what people thought about who we are and what we represent as a state. So that was really fun for me. It's always been a great challenge for me to try to overcome.
Did you find that they had some preconceived stereotypes about Mississippi and the people of Mississippi?
Absolutely. And, you know, I think everywhere has its, of course, stereotype and what to
Sure.
expect. And Mississippi is not, you know, it doesn't shy away from that, unfortunately.
Yeah.
And what you see nationally or what gets the headlines for our state is not necessarily indicative of who we are and what we enjoy to do. So, you know, I came from a small rural area, yes, in St. Martin. I grew up next to a cow pasture, and my grandfather was a cowboy, and you know, I had that background, but I was able to explain how, you know, we're really doing some incredible work in the state. And again, there are so many people that have dedicated themselves to making the state better and improving it in different ways. So I think that what the preconceived notions were, I was able to shift them a little bit with who I am and what I represent.
Sure. I'm quite sure that was the case as well. So, what was the catalyst for you returning to Mississippi?
Honestly, it was 10 years after Hurricane Katrina, and it was in 2015 that I started to see some momentum, some interest in the area that I'm from, especially and more development. So not just, you know, residentially, but also commercially.
Hmm.
And I saw a position open through Coastal Mississippi. It's called Coastal Mississippi now. At that point, it was Visit Mississippi Gulf Coast, the Regional Tourism Bureau. And it was for a PR manager. And that was what I was doing in Chicago, but I was doing it for really global brands like Starbucks and Hilton Worldwide. And I thought, well, if I'm doing great work here for these massive businesses and companies and organizations, then why can't I do it for a place that I'm super passionate about and people that I want to help represent and small businesses I want to see thrive? And that was the catalyst for me coming back here. I had an interview with the executive director on a random trip to the coast, and it just made sense for me to be here. It just fell into place.
Well, that's awesome. We're glad you returned. So, in your circles of peers and in your demographic age in particular, are you finding that maybe the worm is turning a bit, that they're thinking seriously about staying in Mississippi, launching a career, perhaps some sort of entrepreneurial project as well?
You know, it's interesting. I've got a lot of friends that are out of the state, of course, and international as well. But there are so many people that I've met by moving back here that I didn't know growing up, you know, that had relocated here or maybe were from different towns in the state and decided to move to the coast. And I think the sentiment is that Mississippi has so much potential and it hasn't been unleashed yet. And so
Yeah.
why can't our age group really take hold of that and make our state, you know, better in different ways? And there are so many people that are committed to that mission, and it's organic. It's not like, you know, you're putting a call out and saying, we desperately need your talent here. There's so many stories written about that, of course, and there's a huge conversation about the brain drain. But the people that have decided to take a chance on coming back here or moving here for the first time are doing that every single day. They're making the
Hmm.
state better.
Are they finding it? Are you finding them to be optimistic about their prospects in Mississippi with whatever their career pursuits are?
From what I can tell, and this is kind of a microcosm, you know, I don't have a huge gauge necessarily. I've got my finger on the pulse in my area, but
Yeah.
it does seem that there's optimism. And I think
Good.
again, that's, you know, we're so many years removed from such a devastating natural disaster, and we're seeing this comeback, this energy, this resurgence in my direct area, and it's working, you know.
Hmm. Good. Good. Well, Erin, it's been a joy to speak with you, and congratulations on your success thus far. And I'm confident that will continue. And we need good, bright people such as yourself in the state of Mississippi to keep things going. And I also agree with you. We're not even close to realizing our full potential, and it's folks like you we need to help us do that. Appreciate it.
Thank you so much. Have a great day.
You too. We're coming right back in the Element Wealth Studios. Stay with us.